Okay, so you've sent us a ton of stuff about the JFK assassination.
Yeah.
And it's obvious that you really want to, like, dig deep on this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You've got, like, articles and declassified documents and even some of those photos of Oswald with the rifles in his backyard that everyone's seen.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it's like you've given us a bunch of puzzle pieces. And we're going to try to put them together today and see what we find.
Yeah, and it's a puzzle that people are still trying to figure out, you know?
Exactly.
Even after all these years, they're still debating, going over the evidence, trying to see if we're even looking at the right pieces.
That's a great point. So one thing that really stood out to me was this article you sent from the Journal of American History.
Yep.
It talks about how, like, normal everything seemed in Dallas that day before the shooting.
Right.
Can you, like, set the scene for us? Like, what was the atmosphere like?
Yeah, sure. So imagine it's a bright, sunny day in Dallas, November 22nd, 1963, and there are crowds of people lining the streets. Everyone's excited to see the president and the first lady.
Yeah.
And there's this feeling of optimism in the air, like a sense that anything is possible.
Wow.
You know, this wasn't just like a regular presidential visit. It felt more like a celebration.
And then just like that, everything changes.
Oh, yeah.
Like from joy to chaos, and like reading those eyewitness accounts you shared, it's it's really powerful stuff.
Yeah.
What happened in those moments?
Oh, it's like it happened so fast, but it also felt like it was in slow motion. You know?
Oh, wow.
The motorcade is going through Dealey Plaza and suddenly shots ring out.
Oh, God.
And at first people are just confused, but then it's total panic.
Yeah.
Kennedy's slumped over in the car, fatally wounded.
Oh, man.
It's chaos. Total disbelief.
And then Lee Harvey Oswald, he's the one they say was the assassin.
Right.
And you included his biography in the materials you sent, the one by Priscilla Johnson McMillan.
Yeah.
And it really shows how complicated he was. Even before the assassination, his life was full of, like, contradictions.
Absolutely. Oswald was a mystery himself. I mean, just look at his defection to the Soviet Union in 1959.
Right in the middle of the Cold War.
Exactly, at the height of the Cold War.
Yeah.
And then a couple years later, he comes back to the U.S. with a Russian wife.
Yeah.
Acting like he's disillusioned with communism.
It doesn't add up.
Yeah, and that's what makes him so interesting. He wasn't just some random guy, you know?
Right, and then there were those photos.
Oh, yeah, the backyard photos.
The ones where he's holding the rifle and just staring at the camera.
Yeah, they were everywhere back then.
They were like proof that he was the lone gunman.
Exactly.
But you pointed out some articles that say those photos might not even be real.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, they became like this instant symbol of the lone gunman theory, right?
Right.
And they were all over the newspapers, but there are people who say that the shadows and the lighting don't look right.
Oh, wow.
Some even say that Oswald's posture looks off.
Interesting.
And these little inconsistencies, you know, they just make things even more mysterious.
Okay, so we've got this complicated guy.
Oswald.
Yeah, and then out of nowhere comes Jack Ruby.
Yes.
This nightclub owner from Dallas who's connected to the mob.
Right.
And he shoots Oswald on live TV before Oswald can even go to trial.
Yeah, I included the transcript from Ruby's testimony to the Warren Commission.
Right.
Where he says he did it to save Jackie Kennedy from having to go through a trial. But a lot of people didn't buy it.
Right, because it seems like...
It just seemed too convenient.
Yeah.
Almost too dramatic, like something you'd see in a movie.
And that's what led to all the conspiracy theories.
Exactly, it just fueled the fire.
Yeah, and there are a lot of them.
Oh yeah, tons.
From the CIA being involved to the Mafia to Cuban exiles wanting revenge.
Right.
I mean, you even sent an article about the sounds recorded at Dealey Plaza that some people say proves there was more than one shooter.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is that each of these theories, no matter how crazy they might sound, they kind of connect to the anxieties that people were already feeling back then.
Like, what do you mean?
Well, you had the Cold War going on, and organized crime was a big problem, and people were starting to distrust the government more and more.
So the assassination was like a blank slate?
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone could put their own fears.
Exactly.
Okay, so then the Warren Commission was put together to figure out what happened.
Right.
And you pointed out their main conclusion, which was that Oswald acted alone.
Yeah, but even they had some dissenting opinions,
Right.
and there are a lot of questions that they just couldn't answer.
Which is why people are still talking about this.
Exactly.
Okay, so after going through all this stuff,
Yeah.
why do you think the JFK assassination still fascinates us after all these years?
Well, I think maybe it's because deep down, it's a story about losing our innocence. You know?
What do you mean?
It's like that moment when we realize that even in America, even in the land of the free, Something this tragic could just happen out of the blue.
Yeah.
It's like a reminder that history isn't always neat and tidy, you know? It's full of unanswered questions and different sides of the story.
Okay, so for everyone listening out there,
Yeah.
what part of this sticks with you the most?
Yeah.
Is it the mystery of Oswald himself?
Mm-hmm.
Or the chaos of that day in Dallas?
Yeah.
Or maybe it's all those conspiracy theories that you can just get lost in.
Right.
Maybe it's just realizing that sometimes even when we have all the information, we're still left with more questions than answers.
That's a good point.
This deep dive was really just the beginning.
Yeah.
Where will your exploration take you?
Exactly.
That's something to think about.